On today's 5-Minute Sales Training, a very special conversation with our own Ryan Taft. Subject matter is how to sell with higher interest rates. Stick around. Welcome back to another 5-Minute Sales Training. Today, we're talking with Ryan Taft about how to sell against higher interest rates. We always appreciate when you like the video. Subscribe too if you haven't. Ryan Taft, interest rates have gone up. Did you notice that?
I had noticed.
I know that's something we've been hearing an awful lot about. And, you know, when we think about the formula that people buy when their current dissatisfaction times their future promise is greater than their cost and fear, talk a little bit about it from that perspective, maybe a little on the cost side, a little on the fear side. Let's talk about how interest rates affects the right side variables on the formula.
Well, right now, it seems like the media is on a mission to scare everybody. I'm looking at articles, different publications, emails I'm getting, even in our own industry, that is scaring people, frankly. And it's not that it isn't significant. It is, but it's pushing fear, as we know media does. And so anytime you have fear really be the focus, what you focus on gets magnified. And so you have people that if they were on the fence, they're out of the game. They're not coming in. But what is interesting to me, Jeff, is the folks that are still coming in, even though that is the focus. And so that's something to think about.
You know, on that cost side, yeah, there are some buyers who have just been kicked out of the market. They're now called non-buyers, and we don't want to lose sleep over people who just can't buy anyway. But I do think it's the fear side of things that has been have been elevated, which is interesting to me because when we look at what we can talk about interest rates, but let's face it, it's payments, right? That's the real issue we're dealing with. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. You know, if you go back to the Warren Buffett quote, "Price is what you pay, value is what you get." Well, that's payment. That's what you're paying. So absolutely, that is what it's about.
I'm trying to think of a time. I remember that time when people were really happy with their payments. Oh, wait, that never happened. It doesn't matter where interest rates are. People have always been concerned about the payment. But what do we do about that? How do we help people over that fear that they're paying significantly more? And listen, the reality is they are paying significantly more than they were a short time ago. So how do we help people with that massive discomfort?
Well, there's two things. The first thing to recognize is that if someone is standing in front of you, there's an interesting story that's going on there because there's a new behavior, especially with buyers who are afraid. It's not like they're rushing in saying, I want to buy, I want to buy. They're actually sitting in their car, game planning with each other, a strategy, maybe even coming up with a safe word on how to get away from you. If I say buffalo, we run, right?
Right.
So, but they're still coming in anyway. And that tells you that it's not just the cost and fear side. It is that current dissatisfaction and that future promise side that says there's something going on in their life because their life doesn't, people aren't like, "Hey, honey, I was going to get a divorce with you, but, interest rates are 7%. So let's just stay together." No. There's something going on in their life that determines that they need to make a move, but they're really fearful. So they're saying they're looking for decorating ideas again. They're doing all these behaviors that are saying, I'm not a real buyer. But the reality is they probably are. So we need to take that, what you focus on expands, and shift it over to that dissatisfaction and future promise side.
That speaks to the idea here that I think sometimes the focus on the interest rates and what we see in the media or hear from other people, whatever it is, it takes us off of rule number one. And I think that's my greatest concern is when buyers get misdirected. So we only have just a moment here together, but talk about rule number one and why it's an important grounding point for salespeople to keep them out of the conversation of what are the rates and what are the payments.
Well, to just put a fine point on it, rule number one is live in the right home. It's not live in the right interest rate. Right. Live in the right home, because you can change the interest rate later. You're not going to change your home. I mean, it's a much bigger undertaking. I guess you could, but odds are you're going to stick it out. Right. So rule number one, live in that right home. And what we want to make sure of here is that we don't get stuck in a pricing and interest rate conversation on the front end. Because if we say price is what you pay, value is what you get, Value is, why are you moving? What is wrong with where you're coming from? What problem are you trying to solve? And without that piece of information, just going after price alone, in my opinion, Jeff, is a losing conversation, because you're going to fall into the trap of, well, down the street, they're doing this and this competitor has this. And it's a race to the bottom to see who will lower their margins, devalue their brand the fastest to win the sale. And in the end, the buyer loses because they don't end up living in the right home. And that's a problem. Yeah. So right. my thought on that is, how do you say, you know what, forget price, forget interest rates, take that off the board, look at the home that improves your life the best, and then determine if the cost of that home is worth that life improvement. And that's the home you should buy. That's the right home.
It makes a lot of sense, because it speaks to what people are really trying to accomplish here, right? How are they going to improve their lives? And when we get sucked into that conversation about price, terms, timing, discounts, incentives, whatever it is, it's going to take them away. They're going to make what they think is the right decision on the wrong home, and that's tragic. Ryan Taft, thanks for the wisdom here as we deal with this issue of higher interest rates, how to sell around them. Rule number 1: live in the right house. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. So much appreciate your faithful viewing of the 5-Minute Sales Training. Until next time, my friends, you know what to do. Learn more to earn more.